The collective homeworld was a sphere of crystal and light, beautiful and terrible at the same time. It hung in space like a giant diamond, protected by 1,000 warships and shields that could stop meteors. The collective leadership, beings, of pure energy that controlled the hive mind, believed they were safe there. They had never faced humans before. Admiral Tony Martinez stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship, the Earth's Vengeance. Around him, the entire human fleet had gathered, 2,000 ships, all here for one purpose, to bring their children home. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the collective," his communications officer, Lieutenant Jane Foster, announced. "Put it through," Tony ordered. The voice of the collective leadership filled the bridge. It was many voices speaking as one, cold and without emotion. "Humans, you have come far, but you will come no farther. We have your offspring, your children. If you attack, they will be absorbed into our consciousness. They will cease to be human. Leave now and we will consider negotiations." Tony's jaw tightened. "Can you trace where the transmission came from?" "Yes, sir. Northern hemisphere of the planet. There's a large structure there, probably their main command center." "And our people?" "Same location, Admiral. They're keeping them close." Tony turned to his tactical team. "Begin Operation Iron Heart." For the past week, Captain Nina Davis had been hiding in the collective home system with her stealth ship, the Ghost. Not even Tony knew she was there. It was the most dangerous mission any human had ever attempted. She and her crew of 15 had been completely silent, drifting like space debris, scanning everything. "Captain, I found them," her sensor operator Kevin Lee whispered. "All the human prisoners are in the Northern Command Center. I count 1,800 life signs." Nina felt relief wash over her. They were alive. All of them. "Send the coded message to the Admiral," she ordered. "Tell him the packages are ready for pickup." Back on the Earth's Vengeance, Tony received Nina's message. He smiled for the first time in weeks. "All ships begin Phase 1, he commanded. The human fleet spread out, surrounding the planet, but they didn't attack. Instead, they began broadcasting. Every human ship sent the same message on every frequency, in every language known to the galaxy. "This is Admiral Tony Martinez of the United Earth Fleet. We are here for our people. Release them, and this ends. Keep them, and you will learn why humanity feared itself enough to choose peace." The collective response was to raise their shields to maximum and prepare their weapons. "Phase 2, Tony ordered. Suddenly, 100 small human ships appeared from nowhere. They had been hiding among the asteroid field at the edge of the system, their engines cold, invisible to sensors. These ships didn't attack the planet. They attacked the defensive fleet. But this wasn't a normal attack. The small ships didn't try to destroy the collective vessels. They attached themselves like parasites using magnetic clamps. Then they began broadcasting computer viruses directly into the collective ship's systems. Dr. Ellen White's cyber warfare had evolved. The viruses didn't just confuse the hive mind now. They made it argue with itself. Different parts of the collective consciousness began disagreeing, fighting for control. Ships started firing on each other as the hive mind tore itself apart. "Admiral, the defensive fleet is in chaos," Jane reported. "They're destroying themselves." "Phase 3, Tony said. "Dan, you're up." Major Dan Phillips had been waiting for this moment. His Special Forces teams, 100 of them, had been loaded into pods that looked exactly like space debris. Using the chaos as cover, these pods fell toward the planet, too small and too many for the defense systems to stop. The pods landed all around the Northern Command Center. Special Forces soldiers emerged, armed with weapons designed specifically for this mission. They moved toward the center from all directions. Inside the command center, the collective leadership was panicking. For the first time in their existence, the hive mind was afraid. They could feel parts of themselves being cut off, silenced, destroyed. "Use the humans as shields," one part of the leadership demanded. "No, absorb them now," another part argued. "We should negotiate," a third voice said. They couldn't agree. The virus had done its job. The perfect unity of the collective was broken. "That's when Dan's team struck. They hit the command center from 100 different points at once. The collective drones, confused by contradictory orders from their breaking hive mind, couldn't mount an effective defense. Dan himself led the team that reached the prisoners. The children were in a large room, held in energy cages. When they saw humans in military armor, some of them started crying with relief. "It's okay," Dan said softly. "We're here to take you home." A boy, maybe 12 years old, looked at Dan with eyes that had seen too much. "They said no one would come." "They said humanity was weak." Dan knelt down to the boy's level. "They were wrong. Humans always come for their children. Always. Phase 4? Tony ordered from space. "Nina, execute teleport." This was humanity's greatest secret. While the galaxy had been focused on their ships and weapons, Earth's scientists had perfected teleportation technology. It only worked for short distances and required enormous energy, but it was perfect for this moment. Captain Nina Davis activated the teleportation grid her ship had been secretly placing around the command center for days. In a flash of light, every human prisoner vanished from the planet and appeared on human medical ships waiting at a safe distance. "All our people are secured," Jane announced. 1,800 souls recovered. The collective leadership, now, without hostages and with their fleet destroying itself, sent a desperate message. We surrender, stop this attack." Tony stood up. "This is Admiral Martinez. You took our children. You used them as shields. You threatened to destroy their minds. Surrender is not enough. You will release every prisoner of every species you have ever taken. You will never take another civilian prisoner. You will pay reparations to every species you have harmed, and you will remember that humanity chose peace until you forced us to choose war." The surrender documents were signed within hours. The collective, broken and humbled, agreed to every term. Their empire, built on fear and absorption, crumbled in weeks. At Unity Station, President Alan Foster addressed the Galactic Council one final time. "Humanity has recovered our people. The children taken from the New Horizon are going home. We will now return to neutrality. But let every species remember what happened here. We are a young species by your standards. We have only been in space for a short time. But we are the children of Earth, a world where survival meant becoming very good at war." He paused, looking at each delegation. "We choose peace because we know what we are capable of in war. We extend our hand in friendship to all who would take it, but harm our innocent, threaten our children, and you will learn why humanity's greatest victory was learning to control itself. The line has been drawn. Cross it at your peril." The human fleet returned to their hidden bases. The weapons were put away. The soldiers became farmers and teachers again. Earth's children played in parks, safe and free. Captain Ben Taylor, who had watched the New Horizon being attacked, wrote in his final report, "We won not because we were stronger, but because we fought for something beyond victory. We fought for family, and humans will always fight harder for family than for empire." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity remained neutral in future conflicts, and no one ever dared to take human civilians again. The line in the stars held firm, protected, not by treaties or threats, but by the memory of what happened when the Void Collective crossed it. Peace returned, kept by those strong enough to choose it and dangerous enough to enforce it. The Void Collective had ruled through fear for 1,000 years. They had conquered 40 systems by doing what they always did. They would arrive with massive fleets, demand surrender, and absorb entire species into their hive mind. Those who resisted were crushed by superior numbers and technology. They had never lost a war. They were not prepared for humans. Commander Steve Mitchell sat in his ready room studying the reports from the first week of fighting. His new strategy, which the humans called wolf pack tactics, was working better than anyone had expected. "The collective doesn't understand what we're doing," his tactical officer, Lieutenant Bob Harris, said. "They keep waiting for us to form battle lines like everyone else does." Steve smiled. "That's because they've never fought anyone who learned warfare from wolves, sharks, and ancient submarines. We don't need battle lines. We need fear." The wolf pack strategy was simple but effective. Groups of 5 or 6 human ships would jump into a system, destroy supply depots or communication relays, and disappear before the enemy could respond. They never stayed to fight large battles, they just kept biting over and over in different places. "Sir, we've received new intelligence," Bob said. "The collective is pulling ships from 3 sectors to guard their supply lines." "Perfect," Steve said. "That means those sectors are now weak. Send word to groups 3 and 4. Tell them to hit those sectors hard." Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Ellen White led a different kind of attack. She stood in a room full of computer screens, with 20 of Earth's best hackers and computer experts. "The collective thinks their network is perfect because it's a hive mind," Ellen explained to her team. "But that's also their weakness. In a hive, if you confuse the queen, you confuse everyone." Her team had spent years studying captured collective technology. They had learned that the collective communicated through quantum entanglement, instantly sharing thoughts across vast distances. It should have been unhackable, but humans had been hacking things that shouldn't be hackable since they invented computers. "Begin Operation Static Storm," Ellen ordered. Her team went to work. They didn't try to break into the collective network. Instead, they flooded it with garbage data, millions of false signals, meaningless messages, and corrupted files. It was like screaming noise into a quiet room. The effect was immediate. Collective ships began receiving contradictory orders. Some were told to attack positions that didn't exist. Others received retreat orders during battles they were winning. The hive mind, which had always been perfectly coordinated, suddenly had a headache. In collective space, Major Dan Phillips led the rescue operations. His ship, the Ghost, was painted with a special coating that absorbed all light and radiation. It was invisible to most sensors, perfect for sneaking into enemy territory. "Major, we're approaching the prison station in Sector 7, his pilot, Lieutenant Joe Carter, reported. Dan looked at the display. The station was huge, the size of a small moon. Intelligence suggested it held thousands of prisoners from various species. "Any sign of our people?" Dan asked. "Scanning?" "Yes, sir. I'm reading human life signs. Deck 14, Section C." "How many guards?" "Minimal. Maybe 20 collective drones. They're not expecting anyone to be stupid enough to attack a prison station deep in their territory." Dan smiled. "Then they don't know humans very well. Prepare the boarding team." The rescue was swift and brutal. Dan's team of Special Forces soldiers moved through the station like shadows. They used weapons designed specifically for this mission. The guns fired smart bullets that could tell the difference between human and collective tissue. They never missed their targets. In 15 minutes they had reached the human prisoners. Dan's heart nearly broke when he saw them, adults and children, locked in energy cages, looking thin and scared, but alive. "We're here to take you home," Dan said. To them, a little girl, maybe 8 years old, looked up at him with wide eyes. "Are you really human? The crystals said no one would come for us." "We're human and we always come for our own," Dan replied. "Can you walk?" The evacuations took an hour. Dan's team loaded all the humans onto the Ghost, along with several hundred other alien prisoners who begged for rescue. As they left, Dan planted explosive charges throughout the station. "Why are you destroying it?" Joe asked. "To send a message," Dan said. "No one keeps humans in cages." The station exploded as the Ghost jumped to hyperspace. It was the 5th prison station destroyed that week. Back at Unity Station, the Galactic Council was in chaos. The Krex ambassador was actually laughing as reports came in. "The collective is collapsing," Gorak said with delight. "The humans are destroying them piece by piece." Ambassador Lucy Chen had replaced Jack Morrison for this meeting. She stood, calm and professional as various species demanded answers. "The humans are being barbaric," the collective speaker said. "They do not fight with honor." "Honor?" Lucy replied. "You took children, you put them in cages, you lost any right to talk about honor." The Yoruba representative raised a tentacle. "Ambassador Chen, your tactics are unusual. You do not capture territory. You do not establish front lines. What is your goal?" "Our goal is simple," Lucy said. We want our people back. Every human taken will be returned. Every prison will be destroyed. Every collective ship that stands in our way will be eliminated. We do not want their territory. We do not want their technology. We want them to learn that taking human civilians is a mistake that will cost them everything. And if they refuse to return your people, Lucy's expression didn't change, then we will take them back anyway, and the collective will cease to exist. The room went silent. Every species there realized that humanity meant every word. Captain Rachel Torres led one of the main assault groups. Her fleet of 30 ships had just destroyed a major collective shipyard. The enemy had expected them to attack the defending fleet first. Instead, Rachel had ignored the warships and gone straight for the facility. "Captain, the collective fleet is pursuing us," her sensor officer reported. "Good," Rachel said. "Lead them to grid reference 779. It was a trap. Commander Steve Mitchell's wolf pack was waiting there, hidden behind a moon. When the collective fleet arrived, they were caught between Rachel's group and Steve's. The battle lasted 20 minutes. No collective ship survived. "This is too easy," Steve said over the communication channel to Rachel. "They're not used to our way of fighting," Rachel replied. "They expect rules, they expect patterns, we're not giving them any." On Earth, General Carl Hughes met with President Foster. "Sir, we've rescued 1,200 humans so far, but there are still 1,800 missing, including most of the children from the New Horizon." The president's face was grim. "Where are they?" "Intelligence suggests they're being held on the collective homeworld. They're using them as shields, hoping we won't attack if our people are there. They still don't understand us," the president said. "Prepare Operation Ironheart. We're going to show them that using human children as shields is the worst mistake they could make." The war had been raging for only 3 weeks, but the collective had lost more ships and facilities than in the previous 3 years of fighting the Kreks. They couldn't adapt to human tactics. Humans didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like predators, like hunters, like the descendants of people who had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that should have ended them. The galaxy watched in awe and fear as humanity showed why they had tried so hard to avoid war. They were too good at it. They had turned destruction into an art form, chaos into a science. President Alan Foster stood before the camera in Earth's main broadcasting center. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with controlled anger. In 30 seconds, his message would reach every human in space. Every colony, every ship, every outpost would hear his words at the same time. The red light turned on. He began to speak. "People of Earth and all human colonies, 3 days ago, the transport ship New Horizon was attacked in neutral space. The Void Collective took 300 of our people. Among them were 50 children from the Mars Academy. They were on a school trip. They were going to see Earth." He paused, letting the words sink in. "For 3 years we chose peace. We stayed neutral while others fought. We were called cowards. We were called weak. We accepted these insults because we knew the truth. We knew that humanity had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. We knew what we were capable of. We chose peace not from weakness, but from wisdom." The president's voice grew harder. "But the Void Collective has crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. They took our children. They took innocent lives. Today, I speak not just as your president, but as a father, as a human. Today, our neutrality ends. Today, we show the galaxy why humanity feared itself enough to choose peace. Today, we go to war." Across human space, the reaction was immediate. On Mars, crowds gathered in the streets. On New Texas, farmers put down their tools and reported to military centers. On New Tokyo, the space station's lights spelled out a single word in space: remember. In the asteroid belt, Sam Cooper stood in the main control room of Hidden Base, Alpha. For 3 years, this place had pretended to be a mining operation. Now massive doors opened in the asteroids, revealing shipyards that stretched for miles. "All stations begin launch sequence," Sam ordered. One by one, warships emerged from their hiding places. These were not the old, weak vessels the galaxy expected. These were predators built with human creativity and borrowed alien technology. The Hammer-class destroyers had shields that could withstand a sun's heat. The Sword-class cruisers carried weapons that fired projectiles at near-light speed. The Shield-class carriers held hundreds of fighter craft, each one controlled by pilots trained since childhood. General Carl Hughes stood in Earth's military command center, watching as red dots appeared on his display. Each dot was a hidden, human ship revealing itself. "Status report," he called out. 800 ships online in Sector 1, an officer replied. 600 in Sector 2, 400 in Sector 3. Reserve fleet is at 90% activation. Total count? 2,100 and rising, sir. Carl smiled grimly. The galaxy thought humanity had 200 ships. They were about to learn how wrong they were. On Jupiter's moon Europa, Dr. Amy Chen addressed her team of scientists. "Upload the new configurations to all ships," she ordered. "The collective's shields have a weakness. They vibrate at a specific frequency. We've developed weapons that match that frequency. Their shields will be useless." Her assistant, Paul Kim, looked worried. "Doctor, this technology, if we use it, everyone will know we've been studying them for years." "Good," Amy said. "Let them know we've been preparing. Let them know this wasn't random. We knew this day might come." Captain Rachel Torres received her orders while docked at Earth Station. She commanded the Retribution, one of humanity's secret battleships. Her crew of 200 had been training in simulation for 3 years. Now it was real. "All hands, this is the captain," she announced over the ship's communication system. "We are going to war. Our mission is simple. We will enter collective space. We will find our people. We will bring them home. Any collective ship that stands in our way will be destroyed." Her crew cheered. They had all seen the recordings from the New Horizon. They had seen the children being taken. Every human in space wanted revenge, but more than that, they wanted their people back. The first battle came sooner than expected. A collective patrol group of 5 ships encountered what they thought was a human merchant convoy near the border. They moved to intercept, probably planning to take more prisoners. Commander Steve Mitchell watched them approach from the bridge of his disguised merchant ship. He waited until they were close, then gave the order. "Drop disguise. All weapons. Free." The merchant ship's fake hull plates fell away, revealing a warship bristling with guns. Steve's ship and the 4 others with him opened fire simultaneously. The collective ships, caught completely by surprise, didn't even have their shields up. 3 collective ships were destroyed in the first 10 seconds. The other 2 tried to run, but human ships were faster than anyone had realized. The entire battle lasted less than 3 minutes. "Send the recording to Collective Command," Steve ordered. "Let them know humanity is coming." At Unity Station, Ambassador Jack Morrison walked into an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Every species was there, chattering in confusion and fear. The humans had revealed their hidden fleet. The peaceful species they had mocked was suddenly one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. Gorax, the Krex ambassador, stood up when Jack entered. "You lied to us," he roared. "You said you had 200 ships." "We never lied," Jack said calmly. "You assumed we were weak. We simply didn't correct you." The Void Collective speaker vibrated with anger. "This is an act of aggression. You are attacking our ships." "You took our children," Jack replied. "You took 300 civilians. Return them, and we will consider stopping our advance. The specimens have been processed. They are being studied. They cannot be returned." The odd hall went silent. Even the other species who had no love for humanity were shocked by the cold way the collective talked about children as specimens. Jack's voice was ice. "Then you have chosen your fate." He turned to address the entire council. "Humanity did not want this war. We begged for peace. We accepted your insults, your mockery, your contempt. But you need to understand something about humans. We are the species that split the atom. We are the people who walked on our moon with computers less powerful than a modern calculator. We are the race that nearly destroyed itself so many times that we learned to count extinction events." He paused, looking at each delegation. We chose peace because we have seen what we do in war. We have burned cities with nuclear fire. We have created diseases that could kill millions. We have built weapons that should never exist. We learned to fight in caves with rocks, and we never stopped improving. Every generation of humans has found new ways to destroy. That is why we chose peace. Not from weakness, but from fear of ourselves. Jack walked toward the door, then stopped. But you took our children, and now you will learn what happens when humanity stops holding back. You will learn why we tried so hard to avoid this. You will learn that the most dangerous predator is the one that knows how dangerous it is. Back on Earth, Ben Taylor stood on the bridge of the Independence, now part of Strike Group 7. 30 ships were preparing to jump into collective space. Their mission was to find the prison facilities where humans were being held. "Captain, all ships report ready," Katie Brown said. Ben looked at his crew. They were scared but determined. They all knew what was at stake. "Send a message to all ships," Ben said. "Tell them we're not just soldiers today. We're parents, brothers, sisters. We're going to bring our family home." The human fleet began to move. 2,000 ships hidden for 3 years now showed themselves to the galaxy. The Void Collective had awakened something terrible. They had awakened humanity's oldest instinct: protect the young at any cost. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had worked so hard to choose peace. They were about to see what happened when a species that had mastered war finally had a reason to use that mastery. 6 months had passed since the meeting at Unity Station. The war between the Krex Empire and the Void Collective had grown worse. Entire planets burned. Millions of aliens died every week. The neutral zones were shrinking as both sides became more desperate for resources and victories. Captain Ben Taylor stood on the bridge of the patrol ship Independence. It was a small vessel, only big enough for 30 crew members. To the rest of the galaxy, it looked outdated and weak. But Ben knew the truth. Hidden beneath the old-looking hull were weapons that could punch holes through a battleship. "Captain, we're receiving reports of attacks on neutral shipping," said Lieutenant Katie Brown from her station. 3 Centauri trading vessels have gone missing in the last week. Ben frowned. The Centauri were peaceful traders, neutral like humanity. If someone was attacking them, it meant the war was spreading beyond its boundaries. "Any survivors?" Ben asked. "No, sir. The ships just disappeared. No distress signals, no debris." Ben walked to the view screen and looked at the stars. Space looked peaceful, but he knew danger was everywhere. The Independence was patrolling near the Kepler system, where a small human colony grew food for Earth's outer settlements. "Sir?" Katie's voice was sharp with alarm. "I'm getting an emergency signal. It's using human civilian codes." "Put it through," Ben ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was full of terror. "This is the transport ship New Horizon. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. 3 unknown vessels are firing on us. Our shields are failing. We have 300 souls on board, 50 children from the Mars Academy. Please, anyone help us." Ben's blood turned cold. The New Horizon was a civilian ship. It had no weapons, and it was carrying children on a school trip to Earth to see the home planet their grandparents had left behind. "How far?" Ben asked. 15 minutes at maximum speed," Katie replied. "But Captain, the message is already 5 minutes old." "Set course immediately, maximum speed," Ben ordered. Then he turned to his weapons officer, Lieutenant Pete Rodriguez. "Wake up all weapon systems. Drop the disguise protocols. I want everything online." Pete's eyes widened. "Sir, that will reveal our true capabilities to anyone watching." "I don't care," Ben said. "There are children on that ship." The Independence jumped to hyperspace. Ben used the travel time to review what they knew. 3 unknown vessels attacking. A human civilian ship. It was an act of war, but against whom? The Krex preferred direct confrontation. This sneaky attack seemed more like the Void Collective's style. They dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. What Ben saw made his stomach turn. The New Horizon was dead in space, its engines destroyed. 3 Void Collective. Ships surrounded it like vultures around a corpse. They were using tractor beams to pull escape pods back to the transport. "They're taking prisoners," Katie said in horror. Scan the new horizon, Ben ordered. Life signs are, Captain, I'm reading 50 children in the main cargo bay. The collective is preparing to board. Ben made a decision that would change everything. All hands, battle stations. Pete, target the nearest collective ship. Fire when ready. The Independence struck like a snake. Plasma cannons hidden under false hull plates opened fire. The nearest collective ship, not expecting any real resistance from a human patrol vessel, took the full blast to its engines. It spun away, crippled. Collective ships are turning to face us, Katie reported. They're charging weapons. Evasive maneuvers, Ben ordered. Keep firing. We need to buy time for those children. The Independence danced through space using moves that Ben had learned from studying Earth's ancient fighter pilots. The ship was small and fast. The collective ships were bigger but slower, but there were 3 of them and 1 of him. The Independence shook as enemy fire struck their shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Shields at 60%. Pete called out. Captain, the collective is boarding the new horizon, Katie said. They're taking people. Ben watched on his screen as collective soldiers, beings made of crystal and energy, dragged humans onto their ships. He saw parents trying to protect their children. He saw a teacher standing in front of her students, trying to shield them with her body. He saw a small boy no more than 10 years old being pulled away from his mother. Record everything, Ben said quietly. Make sure Earth sees this. The Independence fought for 20 more minutes. They damaged a second collective ship, but their own shields were failing. Ben had to make the hardest decision of his life. We can't save them, he said. Katie, prepare to retreat. Make sure all recordings are secured. As the Independence turned to run, Ben took one last look at the new horizon. The collective had taken everyone. 300 humans, including 50 children, were now prisoners. The empty transport ship floated in space like a metal coffin. The journey back to Earth felt like the longest of Ben's life. He had failed. He had watched children being taken and could not stop it. When they arrived at Earth's military command, Ben went straight to Admiral John Parker's office. The Admiral was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. Beside him stood Commander Maria Rodriguez, a woman known for her strategic mind. Show me, the Admiral said simply. Ben played the recordings. The room was silent except for the sounds of children crying and parents screaming. When it was over, Admiral Parker stood still for a long moment. They took our children, he said. His voice was quiet but filled with a rage Ben had never heard before. They took human children. Sir, what are our orders? Maria asked. Admiral Parker walked to the window and looked at Earth below. Send a message to President Foster. Tell him the line has been crossed. Then send an encrypted signal to all hidden facilities. Use code word Iron Hammer. Maria's eyes widened. Sir, that's the activation code for the reserve fleet. Yes, the Admiral said. It is. Within an hour, President Alan Foster was standing in the Situation Room with Earth's highest military leaders. General Carl Hughes, a man who had studied every war in human history, presented the facts. The Void Collective has taken 300 human civilians, including 50 children. They were on a peaceful transport ship in neutral space. This is an act of war. What do we know about their intentions? The President asked. Intelligence suggests the collective takes prisoners to study them, Carl replied. They want to understand each species before absorbing them into their hive mind. The process is painful. The President closed his eyes. When he opened them, there was steel in his gaze. How long before the fleet is ready? 48 hours to full activation, Carl said. We have 2,000 ships hidden across human space. The collective thinks we have 200. And our allies, the Yoruba and Centauri, are also angry about attacks on their ships. They might support us. The Kreks will probably stay out of it unless we show weakness. President Foster stood up. Begin activation. Prepare a broadcast for all human colonies on Earth. It's time to show the galaxy who we really are. In the asteroid belt, Sam Cooper received the activation code. He smiled grimly and turned to his workers. Open the doors, he said. All of them. Across human space, hidden bases revealed themselves. Merchant ships dropped their disguises. Mining vessels showed their weapons. The quiet, peaceful humans that the galaxy had mocked for 3 years suddenly had teeth. On Europa, Dr. Amy Chen got the news while working in her lab. "It's time?" her assistant asked. "Yes," Amy said. "Load the new shield configurations to all ships. The collective is about to learn what happens when you threaten human children." Back on Earth, Ben Taylor sat in his quarters on the Independence. He kept seeing that boy being dragged away from his mother. He had failed to save them, but maybe their sacrifice would mean something. Maybe the galaxy needed to see humans pushed too far. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Katie Brown entered. "Captain, we're receiving new orders. The Independence is being attached to Strike Group 7. We're going back out there." "Good," Ben said. "This time we're not running." Across Earth, across the colonies, across all of human space, the same message spread. The Void Collective had taken human children. The line had been crossed. Humanity was going to war. The space station hung in the dark void between the stars like a giant metal flower. It was called Unity Station, though there was little unity to be found inside its walls. Ambassador Jack Morrison walked through the long corridor that led to the Grand Assembly Hall. His footsteps echoed on the metal floor. Behind him walked Commander Lisa Grant and 3 other members of the human delegation. Jack stopped at the massive doors. He could hear the noise from inside. Hundreds of alien voices arguing, shouting, making sounds that human ears could barely understand. He straightened his simple gray suit and looked at Lisa. "Ready for another day of being called cowards?" he asked with a small smile. Lisa did not smile back. "They have no idea what we really are, do they?" "No," Jack said. "And let's keep it that way." The doors opened. The Grand Assembly Hall was huge, big enough to hold representatives from 47 different alien species. Some floated in tanks of water. Others stood on many legs like giant spiders. The Krex delegation towered over everyone else, their scales reflecting the bright lights. Across from them, the Void Collective members sparkled like living diamonds. Every eye sensor and viewing organ turned to watch the humans enter. Jack felt the weight of their stares. Most of them looked at humanity with disgust or disappointment. To them, humans were the weak species that refused to pick a side in the Great, where the war had been raging for 3 years. It started over mining rights in a distant galaxy, but now it was about pride and power. The Krex Empire wanted to rule through strength. The Void Collective wanted to absorb all other species into their hive mind. Both sides had tried to convince humanity to join them. Both sides had failed. Jack took his place at the speaking platform. The hall grew quiet. He cleared his throat and began to speak. "The United Earth government has heard your latest proposals," Jack said. His voice was calm and clear. "The Krex Empire offers us protection in exchange for our military support. The Void Collective offers us technological advancement if we merge with their consciousness. Our answer remains the same. Humanity will not join this war." The reaction was immediate. The Krex ambassador, a massive creature named Gorax, stood up. He was 15 feet tall, covered in black scales with teeth like swords. "You humans disgust me," Gorax growled. "You hide behind your neutrality like scared children. You have only 200 ships. Your 12 colonies are defenseless. When the Krex Empire wins this war, we will remember your cowardice." From the other side of the hall, the Void Collective speaker responded. It was hard to tell where the voice came from as the collective members seemed to vibrate together when they spoke. "The humans show their primitive nature," the collective said. "They cannot see the beauty of unity. They cling to their individuality like animals. When we absorb the galaxy, humanity will be forgotten. A footnote in history." Jack listened to the insults without reacting. He had heard them all before. Weak, cowardly, primitive, insignificant. The aliens saw humanity's small fleet and young colonies and assumed they were helpless. "We hear your words," Jack said when the shouting died down. "We note them for our records, but Earth's position does not change. We will trade with all species. We will attack none. We will defend ourselves if needed. This is our way. A smaller alien from a species called the Yoruba stood up. They were one of the few neutral species left. Ambassador Morrison, the Yoruba, said, "How can you stay neutral when the war grows closer to your borders every day? Yesterday, a battle was fought only 3 light years from your colony on New Texas. How long before the war comes to your doorstep?" Jack nodded respectfully to the Yoruba. At least they were asking real questions instead of just throwing insults. "We monitor all military movements near our space," Jack said. "Any ship from any faction that enters our territory without permission will be asked to leave. If they refuse, we will defend ourselves." Gorax laughed. It was a sound like grinding metal. "Defend yourselves? With what? Your tiny patrol ships? Your obsolete weapons? The Krex Empire has 10,000 warships. The Collective has even more. You have 200 little boats pretending to be a navy. Numbers are not everything in war," Jack replied. Spoken like someone who has never fought a real war, Gorax said. Lisa, standing behind Jack, had to work hard not to laugh. Humans had never fought a real war? Humanity had been fighting wars since they learned to walk upright. They had turned war into science, then into art, then into something so terrible that they had finally learned to avoid it when possible. But the aliens did not need to know that. Let them think humans were peaceful because they were weak. Let them believe Earth's children were helpless sheep. The truth was very different. For 3 years, while maintaining the appearance of neutrality, humanity had been preparing. It started the day the war began, when President Alan Foster called a secret meeting of Earth's leaders. "We stay out of this war," the president had said, "but we prepare for the day when someone forces us to fight." The preparation was incredible. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, engineer Sam Cooper oversaw the construction of hidden shipyards. The asteroids were hollowed out and turned into factories. From the outside, they looked like normal mining operations. Inside, they built warships using designs that combined human creativity with stolen alien technology. On Europa, Jupiter's ice moon, Dr. Amy Chen led a team of Earth's best scientists. They studied every piece of alien technology they could, buy, trade for, or quietly acquire. They learned how Krex shields worked. They discovered weaknesses in collective sensors. They developed new weapons that no alien had seen before. Every human colony dug deep, literally. Beneath the cities on New Texas, New Kenya, and New Tokyo, massive bunker systems were built. If war came, the civilian population could survive, underground for years. The merchant fleet was the greatest deception. Earth had 500 cargo ships that traveled between human colonies and alien ports. They looked harmless. They moved slowly. They carried food, medicine, and trade goods. But each ship had hidden compartments with weapons and shields. Each crew was secretly trained for combat. When the time came, the merchant fleet would become a navy. Even the colonies that looked defenseless were not. New Canada had built its cities next to active volcanoes that could provide unlimited geothermal energy for shields. New Brazil's jungle colony had developed biological weapons from Earth's most dangerous plants and animals. New Mumbai's space station could separate into 50 armed sections at a moment's notice. But the greatest preparation was in the human spirit. Every human child learned about Earth's history. They learned about the wars that nearly destroyed humanity. They learned about nuclear weapons, biological warfare, and the burning cities. They also learned how humanity had finally united, not through conquest, but through exhaustion. Humans had become so good at war that they had nearly erased themselves from existence. That was why humanity chose neutrality, not from weakness but from wisdom. They knew what they were capable of. They knew that once they started fighting, it would be hard to stop. As Jack stood in the assembly hall listening to more insults and threats, he thought about all the preparations hidden across human space. He thought about the 2,000 warships hidden in secret bases. He thought about the million soldiers training in underground facilities. He thought about the weapons that could crack planets and the shields that could stop suns. "We have noted all your statements," Jack said, as the session ended. "Humanity's position remains unchanged. We choose peace. As the human delegation left the hall, Lisa walked beside Jack. "How long do you think we can maintain this act?" she asked quietly. Jack looked at the stars through a window. Somewhere out there, human ships pretended to be weak while hiding terrible strength. "As long as necessary," he said. "But something tells me that someone will eventually do something stupid. Someone will cross a line. And when they do, the galaxy will learn why humanity tries so hard to avoid war." "Because we're too good at it," Lisa said. "Exactly," Jack replied. "We're too good at it.